Hello and welcome to another episode of Vantage Media. In the last episode, I told you about how a few years ago I embarked on a journey of self-discovery where it took me on a path of spiritual growth. In this journey, I discovered myself in ways that I've never known myself. I discovered that I'm not my physical body, but I'm a spirit in my body. I knew that if I want to experience a new reality, I first have to look for it from within myself. And today, it has brought me where I am so that I have become a writer, where I want to share the knowledge that I've acquired. Embarking on a spiritual journey helps you to become very intuitive. You become very discerning so that you see things in a different perspective, a better perspective, a very objective reality. I want to continue with bringing you excerpts from my new book, which is called No Girl is Limited. Today, I want to continue from where I left last time. But before I do that, I need to just give you a small introduction about the book. This book talks about the physical growth of a child. It talks about the spiritual growth of a child. It talks about the mental and emotional growth of a child and how, as parents, we can help our children to grow so that they can have a balanced life. For them to be able to understand the world around them and the environment in which they are living and their relationship with other people, it is important that parents be presently available in their life. Parents have to be engaged with their children. The growth of child is not just you feeding that child. Bringing up a child or raising a child is not just about feeding them. It is much more than that. It involves you being present to answer the questions they have. I said last time that children are very curious, and this curiosity is what helps them to understand the environment around them. It is what helps them to bring the innate attributes in themselves so that they can visualize the world in a better perspective. So parents have to be engaged in their children. How they communicate among themselves, how mom and dad communicates in the house affects how their children look at them, affects the relationship between them and their parents. They look at you, children observe, and they look at how you're talking to each other, whether there is a communication that is in harmony or there's some discordance in communication. And children also become emotional at some point because if they realize there's the harmony between the father and the mother, they get scared. And that affects how they even live their life. When they go to school, instead of paying attention to the teacher, they're thinking about how their parents were quarreling at home. They're thinking about how their life will be because they're scared. It is very important that you pay attention to every little thing you do when your children are young. I'm going to continue reading from where I left last time. By the way, this book starts at a birthday party. The girl is 14 years old, and I'm going to take her through as she grows to become a teenager and a young adult. And beyond that, you'll see how I'll have a dad and daughter communication, engagement, so that she understands my emotional balance, my mental abilities. And from there, I am hoping to be the first line of mentorship so that I can become her role model from the family level. And so as she goes out there, she knows that she has a foundation, she has somebody who covers her back so that now she can explore the world without fear. Listen to this. On this day, I'm tempted to tell you all the good things that parents wish to tell their children to encourage them on how to live their lives. Things like be yourself. This is what parents tell their kids. Be strong. Know and love God. Love everyone. Be kind. Be creative. Work hard. Be respectful. But I'm not going to tell you these things. Rather, I am going to help you how to become one. You are already one. And I only need to make you know that you have all the abilities to manifest these attributes. That is my assurance as a dad. That instead of telling my girl or my child, including a boy in this case, just replace a girl with a boy, that they be creative or know God, I am going to take them on a journey of how to become these things, because once they become them, they execute them without much effort. So I'm telling the girl that you are already one, and I will only need to make you know that you have all the abilities to manifest these attributes. They are part of what makes a human being, and they live in the inner us. You only need to understand how to use them. I am going to illustrate to you what it means to become these attributes, which begins by knowing who you are. Knowing yourself starts with asking yourself, who am I? This is the most fundamental question in life, because if answered correctly and truthfully, you will live your life, you will live your full purpose in this life, which is to fully experience everything in this life as you serve humanity. I am going to guide you on how to answer these questions. So I'm going to guide the girl or the boy or my children on how to answer the question of who am I? It is a question which we ask ourselves at any time in our lives, either silently when you're just alone like this, you wonder, where did I come from? What am I doing in this earth or in this universe? What is my life purpose? Remember, when you ask those questions, you don't externalize the visions, you internalize. You go into the inner world, the spirit world for whom you are. And there's that very powerful divine energy that tries to assemble all the answers to be able to respond to these questions. It is a very wonderful thing when you start having those ideas or those answers coming from your subconscious you and rising all the way to your conscious mind, and they become an awareness, and you start seeing life in a very different perspective. You start seeing yourself in a very exciting and different perspective. You understand that you are different from the other person. You understand that you have dreams that are unique from the other person. You understand that for you to realize the dreams that you have to paint a picture of that image in your mind that you have seen. And that image, you can actually write it on paper or draw it on paper, and then it becomes a reality. You go after it, because the divine energy has a way of assembling capabilities and abilities so that you can achieve that which you have seen in the inner you. Let's continue. I have a subtopic here which says, ask yourself, who am I? By this age, I'm sure that you have asked yourself this fundamental question. Who am I? This is one question that every human being at some point asks themselves, either silently or loudly. I also asked myself the same question when I was 14 years old. The answer did not come at once, but was delivered in bits of self-affirmations and experiences. Even now, I'm still unveiling myself. The good thing is that I made up my mind a long time ago that I wanted to experience my higher self, my full potential in this life. And I know it is a process. Let me use my experience to guide you on how to answer the question. One day, I was walking alone in the thicket of my parents' maize plantation when I sat down and started to ask myself, who am I? I asked myself, who is this I who says my hand, my heart, my brain? I wondered whether I am my flesh or I am my brain from where I experience my thoughts. I asked myself more questions. What is this I? Who is this I, rather? The inner voice I hear, even before my lips can say a word. Where am I present in my body? What is it that goes through my nostrils when I breathe? And why is it that when I hold my breath, I feel dizzy? And why am I in this world? When you listen to these questions, these are questions that are being asked by 14-year-old. They are not questions that parents ask them. They are themselves asking themselves out of curiosity, out of wanting to know themselves. It has a very deep divine connection, and it is going to inform how your life will be going forward when you answer this question correctly. And of course, it is the divine power that is going to help you to answer this question. I continue. I was curious to know what was existing beyond my village. I wondered what the stars were made of and whether human beings were living in the skies. I wanted to know what wind is made of and where the rain comes from and why there was day and night. I asked myself where thoughts come from and what makes me know that I am me and why I could only experience myself as me and not as someone else. I wondered what was responsible for the existence of the diversity of life. I was hungry for knowledge, a kind of knowledge that I wasn't accessible to in my community. I had listened to my grandmother's traditional stories and read storybooks that kept stroking my curiosity. Still sitting on the maize plantation, I went into a state of stillness in blissful meditation as I continued to ask myself these questions and self-inquire about who I was. I thought deeply about these questions, and the more I thought, the more I got excited about the images that are appearing in my mind. I received a revelation of myself that was so exciting and different from how I had been influenced by society so far to see myself. My mind traveled in space, creating visions and dreams. I experienced plants, insects, and everything else around me with unusual excitement. I felt so good and at peace with myself. All the fears that I had growing up in our humble family disappeared as I saw visions of myself living an exciting life. I saw myself graduating from high school and college where none of my extended family had hitherto graduated from. I visited towns and cities and even different countries and learned a lot along the way. When I came back to my normal senses, I realized that my perspective about life had changed. I wondered how, in my meditative state, I was able to see new, real things inside my head, inside my mind. I felt like time had stood still, yet more than 2 hours had passed. From then on, I have continued to manifest those dreams in the form of achievements, one after another. I graduated from high school and college. I worked an exciting job and then started my own business. I built my grandmother her first house, which had been my dream. I married my perfect match, and I am raising my dream family. Up to that far, you see, I've taken you through the process of self-inquiry, where you just sit still somewhere all alone and zoom out from this world and enter inside and ask you real questions. These real questions are going to produce the real you. The real you all along has been, you have always described yourself perhaps by your religion when you ask who you are, or you have always described yourself in terms of your profession. You have even described yourself in terms of gender, whether male or female. Even more than that, you have described yourself as a dad or mom. But who really are you? You know, who are you? That is a question that everyone should ask themselves, and that is the foundation for the spiritual growth. Let me continue. I have visited 5 different countries and have since relocated to live in America. This is part of the dreams that I saw that time when I entered inside myself. I saw myself traveling around the world. Remember, I was just 14 years old and I could see visions beyond me, which tells you that being a spiritual being, you're not just in your location, like you're here and everywhere at the same time. And as we continue, you continue coming in here and listening to these episodes, I'm going to take you on a journey of discovering how we are not localized, like we are here and everywhere at the same time. I now know, this is a very important one, after going through this process of asking myself all these questions, and I remember I'm talking to my girl, and she's listening, she's very curious, she's listening with full attention. I'm telling her, I now know that the human mind is capable of traveling to and visiting a geographic location before the body arrives there. That your mind can travel to some distant places where you're sitting in your living room. I now know that to find myself and my true potential, I have to search for myself from within myself. I know that there is a non-physical world inside me from where my experiences, dreams, and visions come from. And they are then converted into physical realities in this visible world. I know that before I create a physical thing, I must first search for it from the non-physical inside me. You can't see your inside, but clearly you have another eye which sees inside, which I shall come to explain about that inner eye, which is also the eye that is spoken about in the Bible, about that every eye shall see him. I'm just giving you a hint about things to come. As for you, my dear daughter, now I'm addressing the girl after I have taken her through the process of my self-inquiry and self-discovery. I am turning over to the girl and trying to explain to her about what I think is going through her mind. As for you, my daughter, in your desire to answer the question of who am I am afraid that you may be ignoring the answers that are being channeled from within you, like the ones I had when I was 14 years old. And you could be allowing yourself to be bombarded with all sorts of information, consciously or subconsciously, which try to tell you who you are. This world could be taking advantage of your curiosity and attempting to shortchange or suppress the power in you through other people's opinions. In attempts by society to tell you who you are, you may be allowing them to convince you to ignore the authentic information of who you are that is contained in memory, inscribed within your DNA. That's a very important part. We shall revisit later. And the divine energy assembled in you and working in perfect harmony since your conception. You have been living your life this far trying to fit in. I am aware that from when you are born, this world has been telling you who you are, instead of you showing the world who you are. The world has been telling you to define yourself in terms of your culture, your religion, your profession, your race, and even your nationality. You have been living your life by reacting to stimuli triggered from outside you rather than projecting your life from the inside of you, which is where the divine power that tells you who you are comes from. I want you to know that you are the only one who can show the world who you are. I want you to know that what we see, experience, and perceive outside ourselves is beamed from inside ourselves. Our mind decides what our eyes should see. All physical matter is the creation of our mind. The physical exists in our mind first as a thought. Anything that our mind has not allowed our eyes to see is invisible to us. Our mind and the Holy Spirit are one and the same. See, this passage is trying to explain to the girl that she should pay attention now because she has arrived at an age where she is able to discern things, mentally, intelligently, that when she was born in my family, we have been describing things and telling her stuff and explaining this, and and that has informed so far about how she sees the world. But is that real? The only real exists in you as a human being. It exists in the inner you. These other things are just maybe cultural, carried forward from generations to generations, behaviors that are modeled by the rules and laws of the land. But the real aspect of you is one in which you ask yourself a question and you answer it. The basis for every creation, anything you see, any innovation you see, be it these lights, be it a radio, be it a cell phone, be it a car, an aeroplane, anything you think of that the human being has created once existed as a thought in the mind of an individual. And every one of us is capable of creating. But we sell ourselves short most of the time. Like, you receive an idea, you see it so vividly, you see it so clearly, you can write it on paper and design it, and then embark on a process of bringing it into reality. And then you can create a profession out of it. It can become your job, it can become a company, you can employ people. And this is what happens. Those people who have been able to know how to get into the inner self and conceptualize dreams are the ones who are running the world as it is. And the rest of the people are just employees. You have to make your mind up. Do you want to continue being an employee for the rest of your life? Or you want to use your very God-given attributes to do something, to be creative as well? Because your creativity is boundless. But you need to take time to engage in stillness, in blissful meditation. Take your time to understand yourself, to know yourself. I'll continue bringing a lot of this up. Keep coming in here, watching these clips as I post them. Subscribe, like, share, and let's keep talking. Meanwhile, I want to leave you at that, and we'll continue with the next episode. This book is available in Kenya at a bookshop called the Nuria Bookshop, which is located at a building called the One Building along Moi Avenue in Nairobi. You can also reach me, and I will be able to give you a copy through my social media handles at Peter Mbuthia on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter at PeterMbuthia01. Adios.